Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 100% Wild podcast. I'm Mark Kenyon over here with Wired to Hunt, and over on the Drury Outdoors side is my good pal Matt Drury. How are you, Matt?
Good, buddy. What's up? What's up? It's been about a week or so since we did one of these. It's good to catch up.
Been a little while, yeah. I've been cranking out some new projects over here, stuck in my dungeon in my home office, so it's nice to actually get to talk to a real person right now. So I'm looking forward to this.
I just spent about 4 days in Nashville for the National Wild Turkey Federation's national convention. They have it every year there in Opryland in Nashville, and we get to hang out with a lot of the consumers. And probably I heard more about the podcast at that one event than I've had since we've started doing it. So it was refreshing to kind of get some good feedback from people listening to it, and a lot of people loving what we're doing and had some good input. So it was great to hear that. And ultimately, the guest for today, we got to hang out together there at the Mossy Oak booth. It's Mossy Oak Cuz Strickland, longtime friend of Drury Outdoors.
How you guys doing? Hey, I appreciate the invite, and I told you not long ago, the National Wild Turkey Federation is actually like one of the largest deer membership groups in the world, because, man, Mark and Terry and Matt came into our booth, and the subject matter immediately changed from turkeys to deer. That was fun to see, but yeah, that's a big show. I was glad to be there. I'm honored to be there all the time. It's absolutely a beast of the show, because the consumers are just relentless. It's like, I don't know how many people were there, but it was packed.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I've heard numbers, but I don't know what the actual final number was. But I know this, like Saturday, you could not walk through the aisles, and they said that there's something like 160 or 170 vendors, I think that's what they said, that are on the waiting list to get into that show and have a booth in that show. So it is a cool event. As a consumer, if you ever wanted to go, bring your family down, like the Opryland in general is just beautiful, and you never have to leave the premises, and all these cool things with not just turkey hunting, but all hunting are involved in it. And it's a very neat show to go to. Probably my favorite of all the shows we attend.
No doubt about it. A unique thing about it, too, is you're talking about family. You'll see more kids, little kids, teenage kids at that show than you will at any other show, and I personally love that, and I know you guys do too as well.
Yeah, so one thing that before Mark and I kind of do our deal and get into the question of the day, I did want to ask you, when we ran into you at the SHOT Show in Vegas this year in January, you had talked to us about a new organization that you're kind of instrumental in helping to get off the ground and raise some awareness for. So I wanted to give you a chance to kind of give our listeners a little background on it, because me personally, I feel like all the hunters that I know, all the conservationists that I know, they are huge supporters of this cause, and now there's something we can all get behind. So why don't you share that with us a little bit?
Well, bless you for bringing it up. I could tell it meant something to you and Mark and Terry as well, but it's called SOLE, S-O-L-E, which is an acronym for Sportsmen Organized for Law Enforcement. And, we've done tons of stuff. Y'all have too. Y'all are big into Catch a Dream. We all kind of do our share. And we've been really deeply involved with the military for a long time, but not a lot of attention paid to law enforcement. And what we've done is we picked out 3 groups that are already in place. They already have their 501(c)(3)s. COPS, which is Concern of Police Survivors, and they kind of step in when someone loses a family member in law enforcement. Spirit of Blue, which is a group that buys equipment. And you'd be stunned how much equipment police officers and sheriffs and stuff like that have to buy on their own, including tourniquets and body armor. It's crazy. And the other one's Below 100, which is a company that goes in and offers training at no charge to smaller precincts and stuff, defensive driving and all that. These people have everything there in place. What they don't have is a lot of money. So we're trying to raise money for those 3. And SOLE is just kind of a marketing arm for that. All the money we raise goes to a group in Tupelo called Create Foundation, which handles all our 501(c)(3) stuff. All the money goes to the Create Foundation, and once a quarter, they split it out in thirds, 1/3 here, 1/3 there, 1/3 there. We never see it, never touch it, and we're very excited about it. We've got our governor, the great Phil Bryant's, involved because he's former law enforcement. We auctioned off a hunt at the NWTF, kept all the money, and they let us do that. We raised $7,500. We're auctioned off a hunt for 2 people down in Florida with Cypress Roost Outfitters, and the guy that owns that is in law enforcement. His dad was, so it's kind of a family that law enforcement is. But man, when you guys put it live at the SHOT Show, the website, we have a website, soulamerica.org. The website traffic went through the roof. So God bless you guys for helping us with that.
Good. We'd like to hear that. It's something awesome. That, with us, Coon Dog's always kind of been our representative of law enforcement for Drury Outdoors. And it's just to kind of hear his take personally on how law enforcement's kind of been treated in the last couple of years here. It's sad to hear it. So we're happy to get behind it and help you out, and hopefully drive some people to that website and donate, any $5, $10, whatever, and help raise some funds for something that's a worthy cause.
Well, we appreciate it. 100% does go to that. Well, like I say, we're using the Create Foundation. We pay any fees they have and stuff, so every penny's going to those people. And I called them all and told them, hey, we raised $7,500, and their reaction was, you just have no idea how far that money will go. So their budgets are pretty limited, and I think it's time. You said earlier that, the way things are in the country right now, this is a good time, and so we're going to continue to push and strive. I had some great people come by the booth. Lit Coolers, that guy's former law enforcement. Winchester, got a call from Buck Knife, so it's starting to get a little traction.
Good deal. That's what we want to do. We want to help out as much as we can.
That's great. I was just going to ask, because what kinds of things do you have planned as far as fundraising efforts or events or anything like that? Is there anything that we should be keeping an eye out to possibly get involved with in the future?
Yeah, well, first thing we're going to do is the governor, bless his heart, the great Phil Bryant, he's offered up the governor's mansion for a fundraiser down there, and he'll kind of handle that. But, what I'm wanting to do is something that's perpetual, keeps bringing. I got a meeting tomorrow with a guy from Lit Coolers, and he's already said he wants to do a Mossy Oak Lit Cooler with the Soul logo on it and have the proceeds of that go directly into Soul. Winchester's thinking about doing a box of ammo, maybe 9mm or 40 cal, whatever it is, with the Soul logo. So what I want people to do more than anything is to look for that logo. Go to the soulamerica.org, check out that, and like Matt said, make a donation. But the first fundraisers right now are kind of underway and are small. So what I want to do right now, what they can help with more than anything, is do what Matt's doing, and that's tell people about it.
Good deal. Well, we'll certainly help and do our part.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do we want to shift over to talking a little bit of deer here? Because even though it's February, I know that myself and you guys, I'm sure, are still have whitetails heavily on the mind, right?
That's right. It never leaves the mind, right? That's the problem. No. That's part of being a gamekeeper. Just never stops.
It does. That's the truth.
Small part, and I can promise you, Matt and Mark and Terry, they get as much enjoyment right now out of being in the seat of a tractor as they do being in the seat of a hang-on deer stand. And I'm the same way, and it is 12 months. It has to be 12 months a year if you want to get it anywhere near the level that Mark and Terry do for a big deer. And in my case, my goal is strictly a target-rich environment. And so it's 12 months, no doubt.
Speaking of tractors, Matt, we've got a question today related to that. Do we want to jump into that?
Absolutely. The question of the day is brought to you by Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter.
Hi guys, this is David here, Wichita, Kansas. My question for you guys: I have a lease. It has half in ag and almost half in timber. There's a small portion of the lease that the farmer does not use for ag. I would like to start putting food plots in those areas. My question: how would you go to the farmer and ask him to allow me to plant food plots without him being scared that it's going to affect growing more deer into the area, and he would be scared his crops would be in more danger. Thanks for your time.
That's a great question. You want Matt to go first, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, I mean, real quick, I honestly, like, my experience with most of the farmers that we've dealt with, they're all, they're great guys. They not always do they understand what we're trying to do from a deer, and a herd management standpoint. I think that's usually the disconnect. If they have cattle or whatever, like, they're not always necessarily worried about what the herd's doing. Like he referenced right there, are they going to be worried that, by putting in food plots, you're going to be bringing in more deer. But I think you could almost counter that argument with, well, if you're putting in food plots, you're going to redirect deer in a different direction and maybe help some of the crop damage that you're incurring. What do you think, Cuz?
Yeah, absolutely. If the guy's really letting you hunt there to keep the deer damage, the crop damage down, well, there's no better way to do it than centered around a food plot. I mean, we've kind of all gotten used to hunting around food plots. We do it to hold the deer, but it's also, for a better term, it's the killing spot. That's where you do it. Number two, anytime you're working that ground and growing a crop, if you're doing it right, you're taking care of that ground. You're putting more fertilizer in it. You're keeping it managed. So it's down the road, if he wants to go back in there and row crop, man, you've done him a favor. You're turning all that old stuff up back into the ground. You fertilize it. You're checking the pH. You're getting all those soil samples. So there's no doubt it's better for him. It's certainly better for whoever's hunting it, because like it is, it's going to draw the deer away from the crops into that. That's the best place to kill them. But also, you're kind of being a gamekeeper for him, in my opinion.
Have you ever had to do something like this, Cuz, where you had to work with another landowner, whether it be on a lease or early on when you didn't have your own land, where you actually had to try to talk to somebody else about what you were wanting to do and convincing them that it's okay to do that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't have a really big farm. My farm's about 300 acres, a little bit bigger than that, and I lease about 350 acres, so I got about 700. But I'm constantly dealing with landowners, and the best way to do it is call them and say, look, here's what I want to do. Now, I kind of draw the line, and they normally will too, on, cutting down big trees. I don't do that kind of stuff, but there's nice little openings in there. I was like, look, we got to get in there and mow that terrible vetch and that brush down. Let me plant a food plot down there. It's going to keep the deer away from you. Landowners, as long as they think they know what you're doing, they're usually all about it. And I've never had anything but good results working with landowners. Now, the guys around me, most of them are row crop guys, professional, big-time farmers, so they can weed through any BS that's going on. But most of them are hunters. They're all outdoor kind of guys, and I think they want to see you succeed. And if they know you're harvesting deer, your conversation's already starting out at a bright spot. But yeah, I have no qualms, approaching a landowner and telling him, this is what I'd like to do. What do you think?
Mark, what kind of experience have you had up in Michigan with this? Because I'm sure that you've dealt with this a time or two.
Yeah, you know me, usually being the poor young guy, I don't own any land or have anything big and fancy where I can do this, so it's always been trying to get permission to do it on somebody else's land, and I've had good luck with it. 2 different properties I've been able to do this, and for me, a couple things kind of came in handy. Number one, I made sure that I had a simple explanation plan. Like, I wasn't like I was just showing up at the farmer's door and saying, hey, I want to plant a food plot, and then he's like, well, what's that, or why, or how are you going to do that? I made sure that I explained what I was doing, when I was thinking about doing it, what type of equipment I might be using, how I could go about doing it without damaging his crops or his land in any way, so that you could answer all those questions right out of the gate, because inevitably he or her will have some questions. Another thing I did early on was I started small. So rather than saying, hey, I want to plant a 2.5 acre food plot, I just wanted to kind of ease them in. So it was, hey, there's a little 1/8 acre, 1/4 acre section over here. I thought I could try a food plot. And I think that's a lot easier pill to swallow. They can handle a small change like that, and then get a feel for, how you'll operate, how respectful you'll be of their property, what exactly is going to be involved in all this. And then once you can prove in that first instance that, hey, this is a good thing, I'm not going to damage your property, we're going to do this in the right kind of way. If you can show them that with your actions, then you're much more likely to be able to plant an acre or 2 acres or 3 acres or whatever might be available in the future. So that was something I did too. And then I think the final thing that's very important, especially when you're either working on someone else's property that you lease or that they've given you permission, probably the very most important thing about this whole process is making sure that after you get permission, you handle that responsibility the right way. So being respectful of his property, his or her property, being respectful of how you access the property, being careful about what you're doing, and always thinking about the fact that this isn't your ground and you need to keep their desires in mind too. So I think if you can do those things, you got a great chance of being able to plant a food plot, being able to improve your deer hunting, and doing it in a way that keeps the landowner happy. And knock on wood, that's worked out well for me too.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. I mean, I know in my situation, I text back and forth with the farmer for my lease all the time, and it kind of goes both ways. He's it didn't always start out that way, and they would maybe do something that was kind of right in the middle of the season that was kind of would maybe mess up what our plans were, and we've kind of just evolved our relationship to where now anytime that I'm going to be in there or doing something, I give him a heads up. Or if he's going to be moving his cattle from one end of the farm to the other, he tries to give me a heads up. This year, I paid to leave some standing corn up near one of my box blinds, and he would go in, and he came in 3 different times and mowed that, corn over during the season for me and brush hogged it or whatever, and there was some standing corn left. And at the end of the season, maybe 2 weeks after the season was over, he asked, hey, can I go in there and brush hog that so I can turn the dirt? Ideally, would I leave that? Yes, I would have left it, just I would have left it the rest of the, winter. But I have to be cognizant of the fact that he's working with me. I got to work with him as well, and kind of, it's that olive branch, so to speak. And you got to be respectful of the fact that they're trying to, this is their living. They're trying to make a living doing, whether it's, a row cropper like Cuz said, or it's a cattle farmer or whatever. So if you're trying to lease something and ultimately it's their business, their land is their business, you got to be cognizant of the fact that not always are you going to be able to do what you want to do. But if you have a good relationship and you're always open and out front of what you're trying to do, that's usually, in my experience, the best thing that always happens is when I run into the farmer on the farm, when I go up to hunt or when I go up to shed hunt or whatever the case may be, running into him and just spending time talking to him, that's always been the most beneficial for me than just texting him or whatever. That face-to-face time is very valuable.
Yeah, the relationship is key for anything like this. And for me, naturally, I actually have a tendency of wanting to avoid small talk and stuff. I'm usually just want to go do my thing, and I can be, that kind of solitary introvert at times. But I always need to remind myself of how important this is, and so now I try to make an effort every time I stop by the property to do something hunting related. Always stop in, say hi, talk with the landowner, get to know them better, help them get to know you a little better. And even though if I'm busy or there's a lot going on, it's always worthwhile in the end. I'm always glad I did it because they're doing you a tremendous service by allowing you to hunt on their property. It's a great gift, so you cannot fail to appreciate that. Establishing that relationship.
Yeah, not only that, but you tend to usually learn quite a bit from them. They're on their property all the time, so they might know where they've been seeing deer or that there's a few coyotes in the area or whatever. Every time you talk to them, you're going to pick up something. In the season, even when they're getting ready to go cut the crops or harvest their crops or whatever, just learning that from them is invaluable. So it's something that long time ago, one of Dad's best friends is, we call him Yapper, Mike Joggers. He's been on our team 25, 30 years. And he told me that. He's like, anytime you can run into a landowner, take the time to stop and talk to him because you never know what you'll learn.
Yeah. Something else you mentioned offhand, Matt, that I think is something worth mentioning here for someone who wants to plant a food plot or wants to try to get some more food on the property. If for some reason you don't think you can plant a food plot, another option is to do what you did this past year, Matt, which is just talk to the farmer about buying some of the standing crop and leaving that standing.
True.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you initiated that and how you were able to make that work? I know there, like you mentioned, a few challenges, but it seems like that's a great option for some people if there's not additional places to plant food.
Yeah, and I'm sure Cuz has a lot of input here too. But basically, I mean, when they got the crops that you're looking for in a lot of instances, it's nice to have the green food source, and Mark and Terry always talk about that green to grain transfer, and they're the food plot kings and food plot architecture kings. But ultimately, late season, a good thing to have is corn or beans, and that's typically in our area in the Midwest what those farmers are planting. So if I can buy an acre or 2 acres from them and let them leave it standing, and then work with them to come in and brush hog it when I need them to, or in the beans stand, just leave them standing all year, that's invaluable, because that's a crop that I'm not gonna, on my end, I'm not gonna be able to plant it. I don't have the farming equipment, I don't have the know-how, so they're already doing the hard work for you, and there's nobody better at putting up a good crop than a farmer. So let him do his work, and you kind of reap the benefits. And all you got to do, when I initiated, I just asked them, hey, would you ever be interested? I'd pay the fair market value for what you would have received for that crop. If you're interested in doing that, I would love to pay to leave it. And I think I paid like maybe $700 and something this year. And I know you have your lease cost, and that's a cost on top of it. It's like hunting's the most expensive hobby in the world, it seems like. Like everybody always talks about, I do it for the meat, and I do it. It's the most expensive fillet you'll ever have because it never stops. But that's the way I approach it. What about you, Cuz?
First off, you and Mark both, y'all need to take this and turn it into a DVD and entitle it How to Deal with Landowners. Both of your answers were just make me proud. That's exactly how you deal with the landowner. Yeah, leaving some standing beans, standing corn, that's, what it does, especially when it gets cold. Now, it doesn't often get really, really cold down here, but I've seen it work. The key to that is don't ask for too much, because they do. At some point, they want to mow that down and get that dirt turned so it can start deteriorating and turning back into all those nutrients. But I do the same thing. I got a guy, and I was lucky because I had a big field right next to a farmer's soybean field, and I said, dude, you're welcome to come farm this. I won't charge you a penny. Leave me 3 acres down there in the southwest corner. Of course, he jumped all over that. Same thing, though. He called like in middle of January, and he said, man, can I come mow those 3 acres down? I said, hey, give me 2 more weeks. And since I own the land, it was no big deal. But don't ask for a whole lot. And just like you heard Matt say, I left the standing corn right up by my shooting house. That's the way to do it. Small pieces, right up by the shooting house. And look, send the guy pictures. Tell him, look, when you left that standing corn there, look what happened. My grandkid killed the thing right there. Whatever it is, kind of make him feel part of it. One thing I've always done is I'm kind of a venison nut, and I try to do experiments. And if I hit something that's really good, like really good smoked sausage, and this year it was burritos.
Nice.
I called him up and said, where are you going to be, man? Meet me up there. I got an ice chest full of something for you. You take him those burritos or that smoked sausage that's not gamey. All of a sudden, you're partners. They love that kind of stuff. And you're right, you cannot do enough for that landowner, because the fact he's letting you do that, man, you can't put a price on that.
I'm going to have to come down there for some of that burritos.
They're unbelievable. It's one of the few things down here that you can serve people. I got a guy that he does burritos and tamales. And you can serve that. Nobody ever knows it's venison.
Yeah.
You may tell them it is when it's over with, but some people have in their mind they're not going to eat wild game because they had it one time and it was bad, and that was all in preparation. But
yeah,
venison is kind of the golden offering for me, and if I can make them part of that, first thing you know, your landowner buddy's calling, man, you got any more than burritos? Yeah, keep me down the road. So, but the land, man, the dirt. Hadn't been able to hunt that dirt, that's a special, special relationship.
How much time do you put in to your place, to your farms, your lease? Like, I mean, you always hear it's a 365 type of thing. But how much effort, how much time are you there at your place?
Well, it's going to probably be similar to what you get to do. I don't know how much time Mark and Terry has to do, but my schedule's pretty crazy. I've kind of, transferred into the mascot role for Mossy Oak, so I still do a good bit of traveling. But every time I do, and my wife made me do this, I have old school handwritten calendars out, and I know when I need to mow down my corn and turn that dirt. I'm going to set days for that, and that's coming up pretty quick. And I know when I need to do this. I know when I need to make sure I got to get this done and get that done, and I make time for it because you can't get behind when you're trying to, form a cover crop, or when you're planting clover, or when you're going to spray or do this. So I spend a lot of time, but I have to actually calendar it in sometime and say, man, I got to do this in that week. Don't put me anything down for this. But it's all a labor of love. I made the comment the other day, and my farm's not really big. It's kind of small, but the fact that I can just go down there and go hunting without asking somebody is overwhelming. And, I'm not rich by any spec, but I worked and got a very small place and worked it. And then I sold it at a profit because they ain't making that dirt anymore. And I kind of worked my way up. And I tell guys all the time, dude, buy 1 acre and take care of it, and then sell it and buy 10 acres and sell that and buy, work your way up. Because if you just get that little 1 acre and you can go do your food plot, put your trail cameras out, there's nothing like that.
That's exactly how Mark and Terry started. I mean, and everybody sees, because our visibility is so much higher now than it was in the 90s and in the late 90s and early 2000s. I mean, we did our first TV show in 2003. Of course, we started back in '89. And we did our first show for you guys for a wildlife obsession for Biologic at Mossy Oak. And the visibility became much higher at that point. But Mark and Terry, I mean, they started out just like anybody else. They were leasing, and they used to hunt a little hunting club in our hometown of Bloomsdale called 40 Acre Club. And, it's I think to look at them and look at guys like you and friends that I know that have land, like, it's the ultimate dream for me. And I've talked about it more and more with my wife lately, and I know, Mark Kenyon, I'm speaking for you, but I mean, I think it's every hunter's ultimate dream is to have a piece of dirt that you call your own. And I've witnessed Dad, he's real strict about his place, and Mark is too. And at first I didn't understand it when I was, coming out of college, and it's like, hey, let's just invite so-and-so up, or let's do this. And they're real particular. They're real particular about a lot of things in life. But I think that's what, the more and more that I work just this lease and get to experience it firsthand, it's like you become possessive of it because you put so much time and effort into it. And to own your own piece of dirt, I just on Facebook late last night, one of our team members, Dave Kramer, he posted up this post, and he had a trespasser on his place looking for sheds. The guy, in a 60-degree weather day, he was completely camoed. He had a face mask on, and he had a backpack that was full. And he walked past a bunch of cameras on Dave's place. And he's lucky he didn't steal them. But Dave put all these pictures up, and he said, hey, I need help finding this guy. And I was surprised at some of the feedback from some of the people that replied, like, hey, it happens. He's not stealing really if he's just poaching shed antlers. It's like he's trespassing. And Dave had a pretty poignant comment back to one of these guys that said, hey, I've worked my tail off my whole life. I just bought this piece, my first piece ever, for thousands of dollars, and everything I do, and I spend thousands more every year working on it. Like, he's on my piece of property, he's stealing those sheds. And overwhelmingly, most people agreed with that. And it's just, that's the mentality. I think, it kind of boils back down to our point here, that you need to respect that landowner, and ultimately his decision's going to be, it is what it is. The best thing you can do is have a good relationship with him, because he's put a lot of time and money into his piece, no matter how big it was.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I tell people all the time, you don't have to have a big piece of land. It can be very small. Like I say, I started with a real small vacant lot kind of piece of land and just learned how to flip. Guys who have that mentality like, no, nothing's going to get in my way, they will end up with a piece of property somewhere. And then you got some people who will just rather sit back and complain. And I mean, that's just human nature. But the guys end up buying, 1, 10, 5, 50, 100 acres. They know exactly what you're talking about. And then they become the landowner. And once you become that guy, you really know how to tweak your relationships with landowners, because the bottom line is they're the key to everything we do. Hunters, people that, we're trying to recruit more hunters, and we're trying to grow what we do and everything. And I don't never call it a sport. I call it an instinct, like Gene and Barry Winslow did. But we're not in competition with Xboxes and this and that. What we're in competition with is clocks and calendars, because people are so busy. What we got to do, and that's why we need landowners, because they're close to town. We need to make it easier for hunters to have a place close to town. Like down here, we have a lot of hunting clubs, a lot of lease land. And if you have that close to your home, you're going to spend more time there. So that's what we're fighting, is kind of the clock and the calendar, because mom don't necessarily want us to go do that. She may want to go do that. So, man, landowners are the key to everything.
Very true. I would add one more thing, kind of circling back to the beginning here when it comes to asking this permission of the landowner, and that is related to what you mentioned a little bit ago, being the fact that given how busy we are, given how many different obligations we all have, the fact that you use a handwritten calendar still and mark off dates to go take care of your food plots or whatever, I would recommend people do that to ask for permission for this type of thing, because you don't want to be asking for permission to plant a food plot in August, the day or 5 days before you actually want to go plant it. You want to be asking them well ahead of time so that you can have those conversations, and the landowner doesn't feel pressured like you're going to start doing this right away. So I think right now is a great time to start asking that question, because whether you want to plant a late spring food plot or if you're going to plant it late in the summer, this gives them plenty of time to think about it, for you to have multiple conversations if needed, and to just kind of set them at ease. So make sure you're doing that now, not waiting until the last minute. And that's kind of my last thought on this.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good point. I work with hunting lease networks on this lease that I have, and we actually, every year when the lease comes up, we have to get together with the land manager who's different. So basically, this landowner owns a lot of land in the area that I'm in, and we lease one of his pieces. Well, he's got a land manager, and then they got a farmer. The guy that I deal with mostly is the farmer, but this land manager, like, we have to actually sit down and they submit a plan for what they plan on doing with the property that year, and then vice versa. If I have any plans, I have to come back to them. So just kind of back to your point, letting them know early, that alleviates a lot of issues. Yeah,
it definitely does. And I guess with that, Matt, is there anything else we need to cover, or should we wrap this up?
I don't know. I think we got in great detail here. Cuz, how about you?
No, look, I'm so fired up listening to you guys' answers, because y'all are so dialed in. And being the old guy, hearing what you people are saying right there at your age just makes me swell up with pride. I just know it makes me feel like hunting's in good hands, to be honest with you, because, respect, ethics, all that's what's going to carry us forward, and you guys are dialed in.
Well, we've had some good teachers, so that's where it started.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Cuz, so much for joining us for this. It's been a blast.
Well, thanks for having me. I look forward to doing it again.
And Matt, before we close her down, I just want to leave our listeners and viewers with one quick reminder on my end, which is just to submit your questions. We'd love to answer more questions related to this kind of stuff, off-season work, anything leading into the spring and summer, because that's all coming up here quick too. So you can go to wiredtohunt.com/100%wild to submit your questions, and then make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get the audio version over on iTunes or Stitcher. And you can follow all my other things over at wiredtohunt.com. And Matt, what do you have?
As always, you can watch the video version of this podcast at the Drury Outdoors YouTube page, and check out, while you're there, all the stuff we're doing on DoD TV. We're trying to put up 2 original hunts, never seen before hunts every week. We got the guys here in the studio hard at it, kind of replacing what we used to do on our DVDs. So it's interesting. A lot of these hunts have never been seen anywhere before. So that's new. That's cool. And I want to thank everybody that has reached out to me from listening to the podcast. I've gotten so many submissions to join our Drury Outdoors team, and
Nice.
it's been fun getting to see what everybody's sent in, and it just shows me, kind of to Cuz's point, there's a lot of people doing it the right way out there, and it's just so enjoyable to get to meet and talk with these people and see what everybody does on their own home turf. And so thank you very much. And realistically, other than that, just make sure and follow us on all of our social platforms. We try to come at you every day with new, fresh content, and we're ramping it up even more in 2017.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Cuz, and thank you, everybody, for listening and watching us today.
All right. See ya.